Hello, listeners, and welcome to this, the 60-second episode of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. I'm Jacob, and on this episode, I'm joined by
Duncan,
Jack,
John.
And we're glad to have you with us, listeners. We've got a great show ahead of us. We're going to be talking about this week's pre-orders, which include Legions Imperialis, finally, as well as some happy holiday hobby, helping you get prepped for some of the forthcoming shopping spree that tends to happen in America, the Western world. But before we get to those items, including our hobby progress, we do want to take a moment to thank this episode's sponsors. This episode is brought to you in part by our patrons over at patreon.com. Join us over there. You'll get the opportunity for exclusive chat with the show hosts, as well as some opportunities for merch, including previews of forthcoming merch. We'll hope to see you there. Likewise, we want to thank material sponsors of this show in terms of Elric's Hobbies, where you can use Heresy ABB for a discount at checkout, and Monument Hobbies, where you can use our affiliate link in the show notes or description. And there you can also use the discount code HeresyABB at checkout. Thank you very much for using those whenever you shop with those. It lets the show know that we've been able to steer you towards some right places. So thank you very much for that, listeners. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our hobby progress. What you been up to, John?
Oh, it's been more organization. I got a little bit of bad news this week. I got laid off, so the deals that we're going to be talking about, I will probably not be able to partake as much as I usually can during these holiday seasons, but been doing a lot more reorganization. One of the kind gentlemen in the Eye of Horus chat told me about maybe re-leveling my 3D printer, as in physically leveling, not just screwing the knobs up and down, is probably going to solve some of the issues that I've been having there. And then managed to get some Hunter and Stalker tanks in. I just wanted the Hunter and Stalker parts to build Heresy Rapiers and Legion Basilisks with. So I really didn't need the Rhinos, and so I'm just kind of threw those together so I can turn those into terrain for the big highway board. And I've also been building a lot more MDF terrain for that. I got these little road signs built up. They have a clear piece of green acrylic in them so that they look like they're hologram road signs. And then I also built up some little trash cans and just kind of random things you're going to see on the side of the highway. And that's all been built up. So now I'm going to start cutting out sample sections this week. I got my T-square out and I got my knife out and sharpened. And then I picked up some gator board so I can use that as a test piece to just cut flat sections of highway and see how those stack in an IKEA box, because I want to keep this thing as mobile as possible. And the biggest problem that's going to run into, and this is the same thing Kimmel ran into, is, with all those lights and things like that on the boards, they've been breaking off. And so I also got some Green Stuff World magnetic sheeting. Amazon's got some too that I've got from different orders, and that's going to go on the bottom of the lights and park benches and things like that I talked about building last time, and they'll just sink magnets into the pink foam highway itself. And so I'm trying to design a way that this board can be pushed together to be a 6x4 board, and then when we're not using it in the 6x4 board, you can take it apart and use it as two big highway sections that can be used to link together apocalypse tables. So that's my hope to get that done. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to design into this. And so in that end, I've got all those parts together. Nothing showed up yet from the Great Militia Order, so I got all those parts kind of pushed together and just pushed off to the side of my desktop while I'm waiting for everything else to come in the mail from last time. And then just been doing some research and finding some nice deals for the listeners. I will pass it on to our host, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting here trying to put a little bit more work into my Battletech armies. They've been pretty well tabletop playable for going on 2 or 3 years now, but ultimately there's some things that have been missing on some of them, some basing on my clanners, and transfers really over both my Inner Sphere and clan models, to say nothing of working up the extant armies that, or additions I should say, from my Iron Wind Metals trip that I discussed on a couple episodes ago. And really, between buddies in Battletech, buddies I'm doing some other skirmish games with, and you guys, I've taken what feels like the better part of a year off from hobby at this rate, between the Thousand Suns and some other projects that have gone sideways. So it's good, even though it's not heresy. It's good to feel like I've got concrete hobby goals, both to finish out this year on. I've got some smaller skirmish games that are only about 5 or 10 models to a full gang, in Carnival and in Cyberpunk Combat Zone that I'm hoping to get both of those gangs done by the end of this year. I do have the first of the Arasaka models done, and I'm very, very proud of him. Relatively simple scheme, given the amount of black I was working with. Huge shouts to...
It looked real good.
Yeah, to Matt Kane for some of the tips and tricks, and of course Cult of Paint. Really just pushing a couple layers of, I think I went just a black spray primer. Went over the top of that with Monuments Coal Black, dry brushed first Corax Black from Citadel, and then one super tight highlight with P3's Coal Black. That was both my first time really trying to push those black schemes that I saw people learn to do for Raven Guard. Ryan was the first one who showed me that, where he had this super, super complex looking or very, very attractive looking black from the tabletop that still read as black but had a lot of depth and definition to it. And that included my first time using, I think it's Army Painter's branded dry brush set. Those have been super, super nice set for really cobbling this together. I picked out some of the finest details on those models with those Kolinsky Sable brushes I picked up at Gen Con. And those were similarly way nicer than I knew what I was looking to deal with when I started using those. So I think I'm hopefully going to be able to take care of those brushes for a good long time. It meant that I could also donate a lot of my, dare I say, dollar store brushes off to Alex to get him started in his project. Most of the ones that were hooked real bad, I threw out or set aside for use in like oil washes and terrain and stuff like that. But anything that I felt like was nice enough to pass along, I made a point to do so. Likewise, if I didn't say it out loud, as part of getting Alex moving with his hobby, that meant my first introduction to Citadel's basing, like texture paints. Those are probably a little pricey for the volume that you get, but for a smaller game, relatively speaking, your skirmish games, whether that's Necromunda or what is it, Wargrave or something that's on the Age of Sigmar side,
Yep.
or Battletech, where you're putting maybe 20 infantry scale models on the table, it's genuinely not the worst product to be able to get those done up and out the door. So, learning a lot and hopefully pushing forward with reducing my pile of shame faster than I pick it up. I will go ahead and pass it over to Duncan from there.
Unfortunately, I spent last week sitting in the hotel room in Louisville, and I didn't get anything done beyond putting together 5 Marines, because each day after work, my hands were very, very, very sore from the amount of shooting we've been doing lately. So, I haven't done anything. And when I got home this weekend, I didn't have any time to get anything done because I spent it with family. So, Jack, you're up.
My weekend or week has been spent on working, 3D printing some stuff for DEFCON, getting a display board ready, and then trying to figure out where I'm going to put decals on these Marines for the Imperial Fist, and making sure that I actually like the paint job that I did on them. So it's a lot of introspectiveness and staring at models for a creepy amount of time. Yeah, creepy amount of time. Definitely creepy. One of them winked back at me. I might be losing it, so I'm going to give it over to Jamie.
So I've been pretty busy this week with normal stuff. I had my last kids soccer game yesterday, so hobby will be a lot more prevalent in my future, but not to say I haven't done anything this week. I tried to do my best impersonation of John this week, and been cranking out Predator tanks as fast as I can. I think I've got it down to about 45 minutes for the tank hull and the sponsons, and then maybe like another 30 minutes for the turret. So not too bad on the new ones.
So we swapped impressions. I was impersonating you building rhinos, and you're now moving on to me building predators.
Yep. I also destroyed a Sarkarian out of rage. So yeah, I'm donating that to John's terrain pile when I send him some stuff. And then I think, at least for the army that I'm planning for Adepticon, I think other than the replacement Sarkarian, I'm actually done building tanks for it. So yay! Now I got to paint. So that's the next task. I was going to teach Asher how to prime stuff and base coat this week, and so he could try and help me with that. And then, did I say I was printing a lot of stuff? I've been literally printing like nonstop. So like my office is really horrible smelling right now from all the fumes and the alcohol. And yeah, that's pretty. I'm getting ready to start on the Toys for Tots White Scar stuff after I show Asher how to do all the base coating and priming. So I think that's it.
Very cool. It sounds like we've all had, generally speaking, a lot to report this week. Even if some of it's been destructive and some of it's been instructive. Duncan, need I remind you, I don't think you're allowed to classify recoil as a repetitive sports injury, but that's not to say you can't try. And yeah, Jamie, I can for sure say, knowing you, I bet that Sakaran had it coming. Past that, definitely wanna make some notes that double back to John mentioning his 3D printing adventures. Sounds like Jack and some of the other guys in your various other group chats are definitely getting you steered in the right direction. Hopefully for being able to get some nice prints out the door.
Yeah, it's all mainly moving forward for next time. I got a lot of the stuff that I wanted to get printed for this table already done, and then the next table is probably going to be ZM, so I need to queue up a lot of the Mordian files and things like that that I've already paid the STLs for. So it's going to be nice to have a stockpile of that stuff on hand when I start building that.
Similarly, you mentioned Kimmel's Highway as a source of inspiration. If your table turns out as nice as any of your other projects, I'm sure you will absolutely do a more than faithful recreation of your source.
Was it Kimmel's foam, if I remember correctly? The highway, the raised highway?
So his was kind of a city with a raised highway. My plan is to make the whole table the whole table the highway,
right?
And then have a big memorial park in the middle. But yeah, his cities is where I was kind of getting the inspiration for the lights, because he had he went through and magnetized every one of those little cities of death lampposts, and so it's like 75 of them on his board, if I remember correctly, or something like that. It was an insane number, and so that's kind of my hope, is to get all this stuff to be able to fit into one or two little IKEA boxes.
I know where you're talking. The ones that had the rivers run through them, where you even like magnetized the little stop signs and
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's an involved process, but it makes for some really nice tables and some fun angry destruction when you go smack those off.
Yep.
All right, with hobby progress behind us, does somebody want to take point on talking about the Legion Imperialis pre-orders?
The day has finally come. We finally get LIMP information. That is going to be what I'm going to call it, just because I'm an 8-year-old at heart and I want to call it that way. The article starts off with a picture of...
It took this long to get here hard for Heresy, so it might as well be LIMP.
Yeah, right. It's priapism is something that doesn't work very well in the Heresy community. But the starter box, ironically, the article starts off with a picture of the starter box and a listing of a lot of models, but there's more models pictured than there are listed. And so someone went on GW's Facebook page and asked, hey, it seems like there's 4 Kratos that infiltrated onto this table. when you took the picture, and their response was, "Yep, we didn't mean to put those in the picture." So if you are looking at the Legion Imperialis starter set and you notice, hey, there's 4 Kratos there, along with the couple Sicarans, 3 Predators, a bunch of Marines, 4 Dreadnoughts, 2 Warhounds, a bunch of Soloroks, 4 Sentinels, 4 bases of Ogres, 2 Malcadors, and 4 Russes. There's 4 Kratos in there. Those Kratos are not included, and so you'll have to buy those separately.
One could suggest
Luckily,
those
they're also
ducks
releasing.
are not free.
No, they're not.
No, the GW doesn't do free ducks. GW makes you pay for ducks and snails and everything else that comes involved in basing and grit, as you've now realized.
Making me pay
So
for kitty litter.
Luckily though, the rule book is coming out separately at the same time. So I think that's probably the first time they've done that, is dropping the rule book separate on the same day as the box set. Which is appreciated because, again, they've touted this game as being able to be played with the older models. So if anyone's got some older stuff that they're going to be using, like I am, we're also getting.
If you had the AI and the Titanicus stuff, you could just use that too.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part. Is that stuff can be added on to things, and so when we get down to a lot of that stuff being re-released. I don't know if it's going to include new weapons like some of the pictures show, but we'll have to see. When they finally roll out. But you are getting, as far as Imperialis releases, you're getting the Marine detachment, which is Marines, Terminators, and Dreadnoughts, which is, again, a little odd. Oh, and Assault Marines. You're getting there's a 4 Kratos box. There's a 10 Rhino box. They're re-releasing the Aeronautica Thunderhawk, and it is only coming with the Imperialis flying base. For Soloroks, you get a detachment box, which is the Sentinels, Infantry, and Ogres, and Fire Axe guys, the command squad. There's a 2 Baneblade box, and then a majority of the Aeronautica Imperialis planes are coming back. That includes the Lightning Fighter, Marauder Bomber, Marauder Destroyer, and those do not come with Imperialis. Aeronautica Imperialis bases anymore. Now it's just Legione LIMP, not AI. And Forge World is going to get the Marauder Colossus, Marauder Pathfinder, and Arvis Lighters back. I never picked up the Colossus and the.
Did you say Forge World?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. GW Advanced Models or Expert Models.
There we go.
It says Forge World Resin Aircraft, so I'm imagining that this company went out of business and Advanced Modelers bought them out, and now they're being re-released.
You know, that's pretty cool that Games Workshop would manage to pick up a small indie company that was really putting out a product that really helped the rest of their range shine.
The great question I'm going to have, so the Marauder Colossus is basically a Marauder that gives all of its weapons away to one bomb.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And the Marauder Pathfinder is like an AWACS where it gives away all its weapons to just observation equipment. The problem was when they originally put those together, you got 2 Colossuses and 2 Pathfinders, but you're never going to really use more than one at a time. And so I'm hoping they're going to fix that when they re-release them.
Or you could split it with somebody.
I never found anyone that wanted to split those 2 boxes, so I never bought them. I did have a really cool idea to put a small Raspberry Pi powered camera inside of a Marauder and build a 40K scale or 30K scale one, and that way you could use the Pathfinder in just like taking pictures of the battlefield and use that as part of the inspirational stuff between events and things like that. That'd be kind of cool. They're also re-releasing all of the Knights and Titans that came out for Titanicus, and now they're going to come with the LIMP bases. These are smaller than the normal GW LIMP bases. They're just little thin slivers of plastic, but they have a lot of really nice city detail on them. And then again, Games Workshop was nice enough to buy out this Forge World company, and they're re-releasing the Warglaves, Helverins, Cyrax, Moirax, Megara, Atropos, Asteris, and Warlord Sinister Psy-Titan. So if we're getting Psy-Titan rules right off the bat, that'll be kind of cool if you're into Imperialis. Terrain-wise, you're also getting the Broken City terrain and the city tiles. Ruins tiles are coming out at the same time. And then rules-wise, to go with the rules book itself, you're getting army cards for both Legiones Astartes, and Solar Auxilia. They claim that these are not limited, but again, it's GW and paper products, and for some reason they can print cardboard boxes, but can't print paper cards to keep them in stock. And then what's really odd is they're making what's called...
The bases, or...
Yeah, I'm trying to see what it was specifically called, but they don't have a list for they don't have a base, what this base pack is called. It's just this base pack. So the base pack comes with a bunch of different bases for 40 millimeters, normal base, 40 millimeter flying base, 50, 80, 160, 105 oval, and 120 oval. But it doesn't list how many of each you get in the pack. And it also does not list specifically 25s or 32s for the armigers and for the infantry. So it's a little odd that they're releasing these this way. I bought a bunch of not GW armigers and some other stuff to put with my AT stuff, but I never had bases for them because I was using Unreal Terrain's bases for all my Titanicus stuff, but they never made the smaller bases. And so I was hoping that with the release of LIMP, we would get the tiny bases, but I don't see anywhere where they're selling those 32s or 25s separately. So it's a little odd that way. They are re-releasing all the Aeronautica Imperialis hexagon bases as its own little pack of 6, which is kind of nice if you're buying these LIMP planes. You can put them on the AI bases and run that game. And I've got a bunch of stuff painted that way. And then as well, you're also getting a new Carta Galactica map, which is basically a... Go ahead.
I was going to say Duncan's probably all over that. He loves the maps.
I hope it's not folded though. That's all their maps have been folded, which is a little odd, but it is a nice snapshot of where the Imperium of Mankind is near the end of the Heresy.
Yeah, I need to get that. I'm gonna have to get that.
Yep. And that is
So
apart from some re-releases for some of the Black Library books, and then Warhammer Plus is getting a whole bunch of Legiones Imperialis stuff coming out this week for painting articles, a playthrough of a game. They're doing a couple of checkerboard articles as well for painting Titan armor. A bunch of stuff coming through there.
So I do want to ask or specify while we're here. So of the items that we've seen, we still don't have eyes on the bikes, drop pods, and supplement that has their rules. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the odd part is we're getting re-releases of a lot of stuff here. We know that planes are in the main rulebook. I don't necessarily know that all of the planes are in the main rulebook. So it would seem odd to me anyway if you put the Marauder Colossus and the Marauder Pathfinder in the main rulebook. Same with the Sci Titan. Those are really, really specialized units that you're not going to see in an everyday battle. But if those are in the main rulebook instead of bikes and drop pods, which to me are fairly important line things, it would just be odd.
I suppose that quite nicely summarizes that.
Yeah,
Does anybody have any notes before we go further?
Those
Hey,
ogre look huge, by the way, compared to the regular IG, the Solar Ox guys.
It does
Yeah,
look like
I
a
think
good
we've
set.
talked before. Yep. Yeah, the re-releases of all the Titanicus stuff is a little odd. There's no Warhounds down here, so I guess that they're not re-releasing them just yet. Maybe they're holding off to put the new
The Warhounds are
weapons
in the starter box.
Yeah, but they're not being re-released separately.
Separately they're not.
Yeah, because they've got new plastic conversion beamers and missile launchers and other stuff. I guess they're waiting to rebox those with that part. So I don't know. The base pack thing is a little odd to me because, like I said, I was hoping to get those bases for my armigers. And the fact that it's a pack of bases, it doesn't tell you how much it comes with. Is we've talked before how I'm a little bit all or nothing. I have 5 warlords, and if I wanted to base my 5 warlords not using the Unreal bases I have, but using GW bases, would I need to buy 5 sets of these bases? And then what would I do with all the other bases and things like that? So my biggest problem with Imperialis is just the way that they're packaging a lot of these things just seems odd to me. But I've said that
I would kind of highlight at the same time as that it's not just the packaging, it's been the disparate degree and volume of communication. We've had this teased for a long time. This has been coming for a long time, and the fact that seemingly something happened behind the scenes that caused us to end up in a position where we've gotten the bikes and the drop pods previewed, but yet no immediate sign that those are coming. No date, no knowledge other than, yep, those are in a supplement and those will be along later. Kind of echoing your point on the lack of specifics on the basing, the lack of ETA for reboxing Titans with new plastic bits.
I know we've seen pictures of the Land Raiders and the Spartans and the Predators. Did they say that's in the supplement, or is that supposed to be part of the main book? Do you know?
We don't know.
We don't know. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know anything that's in the main book, except I would assume that the things that we just went over today are going to be in it, mainly because from the model releases, not the re-releases, but the actual releases, the detachments, the Kratoses, the Rhinos, the Russes, etc. Those are all coming out. So I would hope that those models are going to have rules in the main book. But yeah, the Spartans, that brings up an interesting point. I just noticed. Apart from the Rhinos, there are no transports there.
And the Rhinos aren't included in the starter box. It's Predators, it looks like, and Sarkarians.
Yeah, there's no Rhinos in the main box, but there's a 10 Rhino box that's available separately. But
Yeah.
that's the only transport that's coming out at all. So
At least until you get the drop pods, and I guess the Thunderhawk.
Yeah, it seems odd that I was about to say that they put no transports in there, but those are the only ones.
Yeah.
So maybe transport rule's not going to be in the main rule book, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's just such an odd release. You would think that they would spell out some of that stuff a little more, but then again, I wouldn't have thought that bikes and drop pods weren't going to be in the main rule book. I would think that would be in there, and I'm just rambling at this point. Sorry.
And other than the Thunderhawk, did they announce any of the Marine fighters like Xiphans?
No, Xiphans and Fire Raptors and Storm Eagles all have models. They all have plastic models, but they don't have pre-release dates yet.
Yeah, it's just weird. For all the information they've given us, it's like it just seems like there's really big gaps in what they should have announced, or at least communicated more so with how the transports and how you are just everybody just walk. Did they?
Yeah, and it seems like they're not updating the size of boxes either for the Titanica stuff. So you've got the 3 Questoris Knights and 3 Serast. Oh, that's the Lancer. They list Lancers, but they don't show a picture of it. That's odd. So yeah, it seems like those are staying the same size. I wonder if that means their detachments are going to be the same size as the boxes, or I hope they're not going to pull a 40K thing where you end up with a unit of 5 but buy it in boxes of 3. There's no telling what they're going to do with this.
Maybe those articles this week might have some more information.
Subject.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and I've got a Warhammer Plus subscription, so I'll go ahead and I'll at least watch the thing and give it all a review next time. Hopefully, it'll be better than the Heresy game, which was just pointing out that rules exist, not explaining how they work.
Right. Subject of articles this week, though, there was one brand new model announced, and that was the Mark 6 Stormseer for the White Scars. Plenty of
That's
White
a
Scars.
hot model.
Yeah, plenty of White Scars specific bits and iconography, which is very, very nice to see for a Legion that took forever to get its models in the first place. And a number of members of this show and others have pointed out that this model is likely to see a lot of non-White Scars sales as well.
Space Wolf players in particular.
No other reason than either to use as caster of runes, or more specifically because he's got just a little bit of a bow-legged stance.
Yep.
A lot of folks are hoping or anticipating the opportunity to very easily kit bash him onto a bike or jet bike.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the same thing here.
Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, maybe, because I've got a Mark 6 librarian for the Toys for Tots was gonna be a Stormcaller or Stormseer, and I'm like, well, you know what, I might wait on that. When I saw this guy.
Yep. And I do want to double down on congratulating Games Workshop for continuing what appears to be their trend with both of the champion models we got, and now with this model, of making a very deliberate point of including both a bear head and a helmet in the kit. extremely proud of that commitment to keep that going.
Mm-hmm.
I think from there, our next biggest news item was as a result of Duncan Kendall, our own show member, doing some poking around on the formerly Forge World, now Horus Heresy Facebook page, asking with regard to, hey, are we gonna see another FAQ for Horus Heresy ever? To which they did give us an email address. We can't promise that someone is checking it, though we would certainly like to hope so. The address is heresyfaq@gwplc.com. We are currently in the process, and I believe we may have posted one already to our Facebook, of trying to aggregate a list of things that we would hope to see FAQ'd or errated. I think that we as Heresy players are well within our bounds to be, let's say, politely upset over the fact that 40K has gotten a pile of FAQ, errata, and other information as that system has developed in its 10th edition. And to say nothing of the fact that the new Warhammer.com website got an FAQ as to its use, navigation, and more. And here we are without anything resembling an errata or FAQ in realistically months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the thing that bothered me more was the fact that the response to Duncan's question was almost like, "Oh, you guys need one? I thought the game was perfect." Was kind of the way it came off, and I was like, "Oh, wow, you guys don't think that there's anything that needs to be fixed here?"
Yeah, that was kind of a flipping off the wall. As soon as we hear of an update on the way, we'll be sure to let you know, smiley face. I mean, Jesus. It's been now a year and a half since your game dropped. We've been playing the heck out of it. You keep putting out more releases for it. Yes, we need more of a FAQ. We need rules interactions questions answered for the Loyalist Legions, the Traitor Legions, the main rule book. Come on. You know people have been asking you these questions. We've been baiting you on your own website or on your own Facebook, on your Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, this is needed. Why haven't you done it yet?
Not saying that we need to send them a cake, but
No. They apparently don't like that.
they don't like that. They don't like sugar.
No.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. I mean, and the one that we did get was like really didn't answer, like, as per normal, the pertinent questions that a lot of people were asking. So
Yeah. So the idea came up of, well, if they're going to do kind of troll us back, let's go ahead and troll them properly. So kind of do an aggregate of everything that the community wants answered.
We could go full Cartman on them.
Yeah. I mean, we could, but I don't suggest that. But
yeah,
just kind of get all the questions that people have that haven't been answered together, put them all into one place, and set it up to where anybody who wants to send the email can copy and paste it and send it out ourselves, and maybe hope for an actual answer from them. Who knows? Maybe we'll get this issue resolved.
Yeah, I think that would be probably the best bet, is just, we don't need to spam them. We don't need to overdo it. But I think at the same time, just a constant reminder of, hey, we are here. We play your game. We want to just be appreciated and understand what's going on. We want to just have a couple questions answered.
Yeah, I mean, strange interactions that have come up in the game, we kind of want answers for. I mean, it's not like we're asking for anything big.
So I do almost wonder, hopefully I can say this without stirring too much of the pot or speaking out my own backside. I almost wonder, and obviously this same token is not to excuse the behavior, I wonder if Games Workshop just doesn't have the bandwidth for what we want and for what we need. I do quietly wonder if when they moved Age of Darkness to a, core system that Games Workshop manages, creates, and supports, if they didn't dedicate adequate staffing and manpower to maintain that system as kind of a live product outside of the hobby channel of things. I don't know if that was deliberate with regard to, well, they didn't really get FAQs that often anyway, so we can just continue to treat them that way. I don't know if that's an issue of, let's say, negligence, where somebody just didn't think that we would need that level of things put together, because the game is, to the outside eye, a little smaller than what 40K is. You don't have quite the diversity in army construction to the outside eye. Or I don't know if it's an economics problem, where at one point someone at Games Workshop had intended to leave a live service team, for lack of a better way to talk about it, for Heresy, and for budget reasons that wasn't real. That didn't happen. Yeah, it's hard to say.
We had that.
Good.
We had that concern when LIMP came out. It was like, are they pulling themselves too far in too many directions? And that they're doing the same thing right now with Necromunda. They're completely evolving the storyline and moving everything forward, and that's going pretty great. But I wonder, like you're saying, and this was our concern earlier, was, are they biting off more than they can chew? And I think we're finding out, yeah.
Yeah.
They have, and to be honest, this whole closing of Forge World and rebranding it just as flat GW, it makes me wonder if they're consolidating to try to save money or save space. I don't really know. Doesn't make sense.
From some of the things I've heard from other places, they have apparently suffered a bit of a brain drain there, be it from not wanting to pay people the money that they, deserve or have earned, or keeping people happy, or just losing people just due to natural attrition, and them thinking that they are in general okay without people to have a certain set of skill, be it in the delivery side of it, them getting product to stores, in a efficient manner, all the way to the actual, maintaining the brands that they have out. They're having an issue with keeping people staffed and employed, just like every place else right now.
Yeah,
I think part of that comes. I think that there was, going back to some of the video game stuff I've heard too. Like, once you get to these big companies, there's that mentality of we're X, we can do it because we've done it in the past, and we just need to buckle down, and we've got gumption and all that other stuff. And the problem is, it's not always the same team that had the gumption before, or you burned those people out, or something happened there. You just can't assume that you're going to always make it, because as we're seeing with the entire world, as Jack says, and rightfully so, not everybody's making it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, moving on to a more positive note from there, we'll get to what is approximately the crux of this episode, and that being what you could or maybe should look at, either that we know of active sales coming, or anticipate sales coming, or would advise you to look for sales coming on, with regard to some of the hobby products that have really made a change for us. And I especially want to harken back to the way that John has phrased it on at least one occasion, which is, how do you get things that, even if they do cost you money, they save you more time than probably what they cost in money, given that time is the one thing that's hardest to make more of.
Yeah, and I think this all started for me, at least, when I started working on a lot more resin stuff, and the joke at the time for 40K independent characters was the hobby heated sand bed that people put their eyeglasses in and get it corrected. And I was like, man, I'm doing a lot of resin work. I'm working a lot with blow dryers or heat guns, and I'm doing a lot of work. This seems like it would be a lot of time saver, and it was. I did all 40 of my jet bikes. Came in, secondhand, so they were kind of warped, and so I was able to correct a lot of those, the vast majority of the issues, in one day. Whereas if I was doing it with a heat gun, it would probably take a weekend or two. So to that end, I started looking a lot more areas for hobby that places where they're doing things that are completely different than us. If you look at the big one that a lot of people kind of know me for online is if you look at the Gundam model world, they have what's called God Hand nippers, a company out of Japan called God Hand. They make what are called single bladed nippers. And so if you look at your normal sprue cutters from GW or all the other different companies, they have blades on both sides. So it works a lot like a scissors. So if you're cutting a piece of paper, that's a great way to do it because you're not really caring about precision. But if you're doing it on a plastic bottle where you've only got, one chance to cut it out or you're going to mess it up, you really want something that's kind of closer to more of a steak knife on a cutting board point of view. In that instance, you're holding the object still with one side and then cutting it with the other. And that's really what these God Hand and other single blade nippers do. And so I started picking up a bunch of different types. I bought different off brands. I bought the official ones. I bought a couple different versions of the official ones. And I bought a couple other products from the company as well. And I think that honestly, the official ones, I've been able to cut out and then glue together my War Master Titan and for Adeptus Titanicus without really having to do any sanding or prep work on top of the nubs. I just ran my knife over backwards to do a little bit of scraping, and then that was it. And so it improved the build time for that immensely, because a lot of times with the GW nippers, what you'll do is if you hold it too close, you'll kind of get that more rip instead of a cut, and where it kind of takes a chunk out of the model. Yeah, exactly. You've got to fill that back in with putty, or you've got to go back in and work with that. So the God Hand nippers really just kind of cut flush every time. I know a couple other people have picked these up, and Monty, obviously from RFI, has been doing a couple.
I've had a pair of the child size ones because I can't read on Amazon. I've had a pair of the child size ones for what now, 2 years or something like that, and they're great. Yep. And the only problem is they're for like a 10-year-old's hands, but they still do the job. Occasionally I still have, especially on resin stuff, I have to still sand a bit. I just can't get the nubs totally flush, but on the plastic stuff, they work wonderful. They're amazing. And as John was saying, they don't leave that. It's more of a cut, like a cut versus like a shearing or a tearing. And so, like as he was saying, if you have the double-edged cutters, which I use a lot anyways for like 3D printing, getting off like supports and stuff, they leave like indentions or divots from where they like pull or cut out of the whatever you're trying to cut off. So whereas the God Hand ones don't.
Yeah, there's the backs have some warnings about don't use anything over 3 millimeters and things like that. So make sure to take care of them. I've seen a couple people online where they push them a little too hard, or they try to cut with just the tip and things like that. They will break. They are a piece of metal, so it eventually will wear down. But yeah, like Jamie said, if you take care of them, they'll last you forever, or nearly forever, as long as we end up using them. Because half of our hobby isn't just the assembly phase; it's the every phase. We've got the build, paint, etc.
The only problem with them is the on brand, like the real God Hand ones. They're really expensive for a pair of cutters.
Yeah, they're about $70 for the official ones that I've seen that I've been able to pick up locally. And this kind of goes into the real topic for tonight. Isn't just the tools that will save you time, but also kind of how to save money. We're coming up on Black Friday, which is really where a lot of American companies like to try to move their finances from the red to the black. So they're doing a bunch of sales, and so that way they can move through into the new year with a better look on their business. So a lot of the local game stores near me will do 10 or 15% off sales during Black Friday. One of the local stores does buy two, get one free. And so that's the time I go in and pick up some of the basic infantry, or if I'm working on something, to pick it up that way. And then online too, you've got, for me, one of the biggest websites I like to use for buying nippers is Gundam Store USA, which is usagundamstore.com. And then there's also New Type USA, which is newtype.us. Both those stores usually run a Black Friday sale. And you did, like Jamie said, you don't have to get the official God Hand ones. As long as you get a decent quality single blade nipper. There's another company that makes a lot of knockoff God Hand stuff called Dispeya. And let me find my Dremel tool so I can spell that out loud for everybody. There it is. DSPIAE. And so their God hand nippers or their single blade nippers are going to be a little cheaper. They're coming in at $39. Again, that's comparable to GW's. God hand makes a cheaper nipper that's about $12. It's called the PN125. That's not going to be the real flush cut nippers that we're talking about. That's a double-sided nipper that's more for cutting sprue and things like that. What you really want from them is the more fancy versions, which is the God Hand Blade 1 is the more expensive 53, or SPN 120, which is the $60 nippers. I've also got some of their files, which are about $25 to $30 a file, but it cuts through resin like butter for a couple of things that I had to do. It was the thing to use, and then a couple of their drill bit sets I've got as well that are they're really well for that. But yeah, the Gundam store or USA Gundam store and newtype.us, I would sign up to both of their mailing lists for their Black Friday sales. Another good one to look at for Black Friday is going to be Battle Foam.
Yeah,
a lot of us transport our stuff, and they always run a Black Friday sale. Usually it's like 25% off, and then they mark down their clearance more. You don't necessarily have to get a Battle Foam bag to just use the foam. Like I was saying on the RFI chat, you can get a cardboard box. It's available at the Container Store, Target, Home Depot. The average size moving box is a 15 by 14, which is going to be the Battle Foam size. It's just a little bit of an inch or larger on each side, so that way you can get your hand down in there. I use that a lot for when I'm transporting a lot of stuff to gaming conventions. If I'm going to take an Apocalypse game, I'm not going to take my 1520. I'm going to take 12 cardboard boxes.
And,
so it's just a lot easier that way.
And with as John said, with Battle Foam, it's usually, and don't quote me on this because sometimes they change it, it's usually like everything in the store is 25% off at Battle Foam, but then they have like other specials that can get up as high as like 60% off. And I know sometimes they've had some pretty good deals on, like, not necessarily like just a regular pack series, but it'll be like an off game that's not, I guess they didn't sell a lot of sales on it. So you can get some of those packs with like like Malifaux or something like that, or Wild West Exodus. They have their
the Wild
own
West
pack
Exodus
system.
bag I got. Yeah, the Wild West Exodus bag I got is exactly the same as their old C4 flight bag, which I bought for my wife for her camera stuff. It's great for Necromunda if you wanted to use it for that, or anything. Just look for the bag size or box size or whatever that's going to be fitting for what you're trying to do. If it's got a logo on it, you can always get your wife or your mom to put some adhesive Velcro on there and then put a patch over it. So there's a couple different things you can do in that instance.
I know even in a couple of cases, speaking of cases, they changed, I guess, who they were getting Black Label hard cases from. So, like, they had the old style hard cases on sale with foam. Like, at one point, they were like 40% off, which, like, that's a huge discount on there. But they don't do that all the time. A lot of times they'll do, like, the accessory bags and stuff like that, cheaper. And I know, like, another thing is, like, I know especially for people that are building armies that haven't finished them yet or haven't finalized, what you can do is, like, if you need custom foam, this is a great time to order custom trays, but not have them laid out.
Pulled out. Yep.
So, like, you just order, like, custom foam, you order, like, so many custom foam trays, okay? And then at the discounted sale price, and then, like, when you actually have your army locked down, or if you need custom cut stuff, you go and submit that to them when you want them made.
Yeah, and
that can be 3 to 6 weeks down the line.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that if you think you want custom cut foam, you can actually build those tray loadouts right now and not worry about uploading them and actually clicking checkout until the sale is live. And they actually encourage you to do that for internet snuggle reasons. Turns out websites don't work so well on Black Friday. Who knew?
Yeah, what a shock.
Yeah, and I've still got on our Facebook page, I've got the 3 Kratos or 3 Land Raider Spartan minus Sponsons trays up as well. So all you got to do is download those and submit those as part of your custom tray order. And you can save money on that.
Yep.
Go
Go ahead.
Battle foam trays also fit in the Bauer brand milk crates you can get for Harbor Freight.
Yep.
Yeah, from there, things to keep your eye out for. I know that both Redgrass and Army Painter make one. I'm sure there's lots and lots of other brands out there. But for those of you who either don't want to or don't care to or just don't like to, you really want a professional off-the-shelf product, wet palette. Keep your eye out for a wet palette. It absolutely will drastically improve, especially if you are batch painting a large volume of a single color at once. Cannot suggest enough.
Yeah, and with the sale for Black Friday as well, you can also look at Walmart and things like that for super glues or spray paints. If you know you've got a bunch of terrain coming up, you might want to buy a bunch of terrain or a bunch of spray paint on discount. Like I said, that local shop that does buy two get one. Whenever that sale comes, I'm usually first in line because I know that I'm going to be clear coating a bunch of terrain, usually the day before Adepticon, so that way the smell gets trapped in there. But I make sure to buy them out of their clear coats and things like that I know I'm going to be using.
So, kind of a big ticket item, and I know it's kind of a reach, and I know I think almost everybody here uses them as airbrushes. Usually coming up to Cyber Monday, or at least that week, Cyber Monday week, and Black Friday, which is Cyber Monday, if you don't know, is usually the Monday after Black Friday, if you're not in the States, which is usually the last Thursday in November. So,
yep.
Anyways, Midwest Airbrush, which is one of the larger airbrush retailers in the United States, they always do big sales. And when I'm saying big sales, like I'm talking like on H&S airbrushes, which never go on sale. They usually just go up in price. They're usually running somewhere between 13 to 20% off on them, which that's a pretty good step down on price for especially H&S airbrushes, which a lot of people are trying to switch over to, and when they see the prices on them, they're kind of like jaw dropping at this point. Really good airbrushes. And the other thing about Midwest is that they stock like crazy amounts of parts for their airbrushes. So like if you need needles or nozzles, or you just like need O-ring kits or tools, they've got all that kind of stuff in one spot, which you can then also get on sale on the discount. I know I usually pick up like supply, and they also have thinners as well, and paints, if like bulk style paints. But if you need any of that kind of stuff, it's a good time to get it.
Yeah, and obviously we are sponsored by Monument Hobbies and sorry, my brain is coming. Elric's Hobbies. Our discount code works well.
Heresy
Always a great place to.
So it's
well, there we go.
It's worth noting that as we suggest that people, if you are expecting to start leveling up your painting game, start doing batch painting, whole armies at a time kind of thing, as we encourage airbrush use, generally we really want to make sure that we are talking about a couple common features that I think we all generally have an appreciation for. I can't swear to everybody here, but I think we're all on gravity feed. Is that correct? None of us are on siphon feed brushes?
I've got both, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
sure
gravity feed
but I don't think I've used a siphon feed in a long time.
Yeah, the siphon I only use for, and this is kind of goes into the tools, but siphon is probably best for giant batches, so I use it for priming and for clear coating if I've got stuff.
Terrain, like big terrain too.
Yep.
Yeah, because your siphon moves moves paint quick.
Yeah.
Relative to a gravity feed. It's
you're
also
spraying
worth
basketballs.
Pointing out or calling attention, even most of the tutorials that you'll find on the lovely Cult of Paint channel, even though they do have their own special H&S brushes, they talked about, especially before they had their own brushes, and they'll cross-reference, if you aren't using one of their brushes, what size nozzle and needle they end up using, and that's usually somewhere in the 0.2 or 0.3 range. So you don't have to go super crazy, you don't have to go for the Rolls-Royce brush, especially not for your first brush. You don't have to worry about getting all the way down to the Badger Sotar 2020 where you can paint with a single human hair at a time, basically, to get paint on a model. You don't have to start there, and especially if what you think you are wanting to start with is just pushing some more complex highlights and getting base coats down faster, you don't need to have a crazy fine needle to accomplish that, and it's kind of going to defeat the purpose if you do.
And one thing I know one reason a lot of people like the H&S brushes is they're very modular. So I know from personal experience, I've had an H&S Evo, which is like kind of I'm not going to say low end because they're still incredible airbrushes, but it's their lower end compared to the Infinities. They're 100% modular. So the Evos can take, I'd say, 95% of the parts that are on the Infinities, including the needles and the needles and the nozzles are all exactly the same. The O-rings on the inside are all the same. The only difference is it does not have the needle lock or adjustable needle lock on the back of the Infinity. The Evo does not have that. And then they have different styles. They have a chrome, which is like heavy duty aluminum that takes solvents, which those airbrushes are very heavy, but they're built like tanks. Like very, 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 very well built and very over-engineered, but they're also very simple on the inside compared to some of the other manufacturers of airbrush, which like Iwata and Badger, they have a lot of tiny little itty-bitty parts, whereas the H&S's don't. They're mainly like O-ring seals that are very easy to replace. Like an O-ring kit form is only like $6, and it has like every O-ring in the airbrush. So if you do screw it up, they're very easy to maintain. So I know a lot of people like the Super Cadillac Infinities because they have some pretty cool paint jobs and have some nice features, but you don't need to get that for your first airbrush. I try to steer people to something cheap or like, as I said, the Eva, which those are not cheap airbrushes, but they're a lot cheaper than the Infinities. So, but you can get different size cups. That's the big point. So like you can get the micro, the midi, or the large size cups, and they're both interchangeable with the Infinity and the Evos. So like that's very, very nice that you can get one airbrush and kind of get just different size cups instead of having to get different airbrushes with the Badgers. The cups are not adjustable. So you have to, if you want a small cup, you have to get a airbrush with a built-in cup, and then with the H&S's, you can just unscrew it and put a different one on. So
with us,
didn't they also release a new airbrush?
Who? H&S?
Yes, they did. H&S just put out a new airbrush.
Yeah, there's a new
that is specifically designed for entry level.
Yeah, it's a lower
it's
tier.
Their new like Ultra 20 or something. Culta Paint was showing it off in their new Black Templar painting episode. He was pretty
actually
pleased
looking
with
like
it.
a really good. It's looking like it's a really good entry level airbrush, especially when you haven't gotten anything like a 105 or one of the cheaper Iwatas. It looks like a really good beginning level. Welcome to airbrushing. Once you get into this brand, you're probably going to stay loyal to H&S, and there you go.
It's worth highlighting. We're all making a number of car analogies here.
Yes.
Most of us probably didn't start learning to drive in the nicest car our family had, unless our family only had one car. Most of our parents probably were like, let's go ahead and get him in the beater and then figure out if he can drive the beater without hurting it before we start talking other options. Half of the joy in getting an airbrush on sale or putting it on your Christmas list and having someone else hopefully get it for you on sale is that if you make some mistakes and if you damage that brush and either have to replace parts on it or lose the brush to a learning experience, it's a little less painful to lose on an entry-level experience.
Yep, I had a friend that completely destroyed his needle the first time he took his airbrush apart, and it was on an entry-level brush, and he's like, well, luckily it's only a $2 part. he was able to fix it pretty quickly and pretty cheaply. But
Yeah, where
if
it's
that
like
was
a
Infinity or something like that, you're looking at a $40 part.
$40-$50, yeah.
Yeah, I think when I destroyed, now admittedly it was both the needle and nozzle on my Talon, that was only 10, maybe $20 by the time I got shipping in it. So not cheap, but relative to the number of hours I had on it, a pretty manageable replacement, especially considering what I probably had gone through in brushes up to that point of my life. While I'm thinking about, like, brushes and things like that, A, keep your eyes out for deals on Kolinsky Sable brushes.
Yes.
They are one
Yes.
of those buy once, cry once kind of things. Now, again, if you are new to painting, if you are new to taking care of your brushes, you may want to consider just getting some nice brushes and not going all the way to Kolinsky Sable, but get used to using brush soap to clean your brushes so that you can get used to that habit. That will mean that once you get some of these super nice brushes, you keep them for longer, if not keep them for life, hopefully. From there, the thing that I was thinking about, and admittedly maybe this is so cheap that you don't have to keep an eye out for sales on it. I don't know what you guys use for your hobby knife. Ever since my days in art school, I've been using a snap blade cutter for like hobby knife. Now, admittedly, I've started going nippers and then like cleaning up the mess with the snap blade. But it's so nice and it's so easy to be in the middle of working on something, and as soon as I feel like that knife is starting to pull or drag or not cut exactly as nicely as I would like to, you snap the blade off, you put it in your paint water cup, or somewhere where it's not going to hurt you or your things, and you just keep on working without interruption, and you get that nice clean cut all over again. Big fan. I know there are some who...
I do number 11 X-Acto blades. I've found that I can get them cheap enough, like packs of 100 or 300 or 1,000 on Amazon. And then what I do is when they start dragging, like you said, I went to the Container Store and found it's basically a little flip case with a magnetic sheet in the bottom. And so I dump whatever box of 100 I'm working on in that. And so they're all stuck to the bottom of that, so I can quickly and easily grab them without worrying about cutting myself trying to get them out of a dispenser or something like that. When they start dragging, I immediately take them out, set them aside, and then I move them into my kitchen for cutting open meat packages and things like that. Something that's going to be a one use.
Yeah,
I just
super
use
handy.
a brass and wood Remington box cutter, and I just replace the blade every few months because it lasts damn near forever. I've had it for going on 15 years. Been using that, and it works just fine for me.
Yeah, I use the I have an X-Acto, and I think it's called Nona or Nona. It's another high-end X-Acto type modular blade, and I get the boxes of both blades, but on the side of the box, when you're done with a blade, or if you break a blade, it's got a little slot where you just put the older dull blade into it, and it keeps it from cutting people. But yeah, I just, whenever I start getting not good cuts with them, I just swap them out. I've got tons and tons and tons of blades available. I also have different style blades. I have straight blades and saw blades and stuff like that too for different applications.
Yeah, I was buying because I kept losing the quote unquote X-Acto handles, and I found a guy on eBay that had just 4-blade chuck handles.
Yep.
For like $2 or $3 a piece, and I just bought 40 of them. And so whenever I'm in a room that I might need to open something or cut a box or something like that, I know that there's an X-Acto knife within a couple steps.
That's like me with cheater glasses, man. I have I just got the 10-pack and have them in different rooms around the house.
Yeah, and so that way, because I know usually I'll work on models either while I'm sitting here at my recording and hobby desk, or while I'm watching TV, or if my wife needs a knife, she knows where they are. And so that way, those also came with little disposable 5-packs of blades, and then I just refill that 5-pack. You can cram like 10 in there if you try, and then that way I just use those and just refill those and keep those by wherever I know I'm going to be using a lot of knives, like by the couch where I watch TV and work, or in here. But for the main part, yeah, it's mainly that magnetic sheet that I talked about. And then super glues, I mean, for the most part, I know most of us just use Bob Smith Industries super glue, usually Instacure CA glue. In the past, I've used the Walmart brand CA glue. I forget the name of it, but it's a little blue 1/4 ounce squeeze tube. Whenever Walmart would have sales on those, I'd buy them up by the bunch. Home Depot has them as well, and they run them on sales sometimes too. Pretty much anything that's cyanoacrylate was going to work for what we're doing.
Yeah, I found that the super watery stuff I ended up finding good use for on like terrain and basing, because I didn't
Yep.
necessarily care where that went. May have damaged some other items in the process of that. But I've got a buddy who, especially for working on some of the metal and resin models, is really trying to convince me to switch to some of the gelled CA glue that's out there. It does require a little bit of agitation prior to use. Overall, not immediately displeased. I haven't built any models with it yet. Just been using it for terrain, just to see how easily it gets just a like basically kitty litter to stick to things. And it's doing pretty well at that. Requires a little more manual intervention for spreading rather than just sort of dragging the applicator around. But at the very least, I can say that if you don't ever try it, and for as little of an upcharge as what I presume it is, if you don't ever try it, how do you know if it does or doesn't suit your purposes better than what you're already using?
Jack got me turned on to one specific super glue. It's a gel. It's a Loctite, and I've been using that for a number of years now, ever since he told me about it. I literally go to Home Depot or Walmart or wherever and just buy like an entire hanger of them and just use that until I run out.
Yeah, that's the name of the company that made those little 1/4 ounce ones. It's not their gel, it's their really kind of watery one that comes with a little metal squeeze tube.
Yeah.
The problem I had with those is, like Jake was saying, it's like sticky water sometimes. If you're not paying attention to it, it'll be everywhere you don't want it to be. Like I used to advertise for when I was working at the hobby shop, this is super glue. It will glue the model to the model. It will glue the model to you. It will glue you to you. So just be careful where you're using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth being mindful of. I know there are a couple folks and channels who really, really like plastic glue. My experience was not so positive, but for those of you who have had positive experiences with it, keep to it. I know one I can pitch, especially as we talk smaller hobby shops and them possibly doing their own sales. Because Daddy Warbucks never puts his own stuff on sale. I have picked up one of the Citadel paint handles, and I know there's a lot of brands out there, and there's plenty of competition out there, whether you want to just go a big cork, like knot or knob, and then a big dollop of blue tack. That's an option. But it has been incredibly positive in a way that I would not have expected. I very much, I'm cheap, and I thought I can hold on to the base of my model and I can hit everything I need to hit. But genuinely, I've appreciated having something to mount my model on and to work with significantly more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I thought I could do it, but end up getting hand cramps if you're holding it for too long and things like that. I buy wine corks by the 100 whenever I'm doing a project like this, and you could usually get about 3 or 4 different uses out of them. Just put a metal pin into the model and then shove the pin into the pine or into the wine cork, and you're good to go.
They're available for like $10 for 100 on Amazon, and
Yep.
That's exactly what I do because I'm cheap and I don't want to buy a proper handle.
Yep, you turned me on to it when I was doing my militia. I was originally used to glue them to each different end of a craft stick, and that was great when I was batch painting for in college to get people stuff for doing commissions on Flames of War stuff, but 28 millimeter not so much.
Yeah, it works, and then when you get done with the cork, if it's been painted over so many times, you can just tear it apart and use it for basing stuff.
And you're already pre-pinned for your own basing.
Yep.
And instead of using blue tack, you can always use this stuff called museum putty. It's fairly cheap. It's like $8 on Amazon, and it's reusable. It's what museum use to hold up the floating objects in their display case.
Speaking of tack and putty, if you are doing masking for your airbrushing, silly putty. It is the greatest masking stuff if you're not going to go and do the camouflage putty or any of the expensive putties that are put out by companies. And I did a review of those a while ago on my Instagram. Silly putty is probably the best masking to use. It's completely reusable. I've had some eggs that I've used for almost 5 years now, just airbrushing, and I've got some eggs that I bought last week, and they all work the same. And you can buy those in bulk on Amazon too. You can get, I think it's like 5 for $5 or $10 or something. It's fairly cheap.
Oh, that's it. Speaking of which, Amazon, that just made me think of it. I use when I'm airbrushing, I get the micro pipettes. They come in like packs of like 100 to 500, and they're like little disposable plastic pipettes for like when you're mixing paints or thinners for when you're airbrushing. Yeah, they're they're super cheap on Amazon to start with, and they, as I said, they come in like bulk packs of 100 plus. And I'm actually out right now, so I need to order some more. So.
If you're hobby on the cheap, don't be afraid to shop Daddy Bezo. Like, he has a lot of good still. He has nail art brushes that you can use for fine detail, nail press on beads for like rivets, that type of thing. I've done both of those. Both worked out well. You can get these things called sanding twigs, which is like 100 flexible sanding sticks for like $14.
And you can also get the tiny makeup applicators that expensive hobby companies call glue applicators for a tube of them for $5 instead of paying $5 a piece for them. Also, Hobby Lobby, if you want cheap brushes that are okay quality, that's what I was using for years before I started picking up Selinsky brushes. And I still go back there and buy their big bulk packs of goat hair brushes when I'm doing terrain. They're not as good as, Army Painter dry brush brushes. But if you just need to be able to slap down paint, there's nothing wrong with spending $5 for 100 brushes.
Michael's as well. It's basically another Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby also runs weekly different 40% off certain aisles sales. And so you can find the week that they're going to do their 40% off brushes and get them even cheaper.
Yep.
And especially coming into the holidays. Like, one thing I did that I got last year, well, it was purchased for me, was a little makeup kit that I put hobby stuff in that I can take with me to the in-laws and still put together models and stuff like that. I think it was like $20 on Amazon. It's cheap, it's easy, it gets the job done. Nowhere near nice as the Monument Hobbies Battle Bunker paint set to go. Discount code Heresy ABB.
Thinking about discounts and stuff coming up for Black Friday. So, but if you're into looking at getting into 3D printing stuff, Anycubit and Elegoo, they both basically all the big 3D printer manufacturers run huge Black Friday and Cyber Monday week sales of some of the newer models, which were like brand new, like that you would have gotten last year for Christmas or whatever, like 40 to 50% off, like already for Black Friday, and it hasn't even started.
Etsy, yeah, Etsy does sales like that too. If you don't want to print it yourself, if you've got some other model, the company you're looking for, there's a bunch of different people that print for you. I know I've picked up a lot of stuff off of there that's Battle Bling and things like that, where you can get it a little bit cheaper on Black Friday.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Anyone got anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, any last notes? Or I think we've hit a lot of our hobby kit essentials.
There's one more thing that's not really hobby-wise. I've seen some emails coming in about Warhammer merch is doing a Black Friday sale. So if you want some official GW shirts and calendars and all that other stuff, they've got that there. I've picked up some stuff there in the past. It's okay quality. I don't think it's worth the $40 a shirt that they charge sometimes, but if you've got to have it, it's usually better to get it on sale.
There's one thing I want to bring up that's something that a lot of people don't think about. Paint settles. It settles all the time. There are brands out there that
Oh.
include paint agitators that are normally glass beads. There's two ways that I've been actually getting paint agitators for years. One of them is going to Walmart and getting a small container of copper BBs, because they don't decay in the paint quickly, or quick enough that you're not going to use most of that paint up and only have a little bit of it tainted down at the bottom. So it's not really a big deal. Or going to Michael's or Hobby Lobby or whatever generic hobby stop you have and getting an actual more expensive thing of glass beads, because keeping that paint mixed and keeping it from solidifying down on the bottom is a huge thing for the longevity of your paint and the quality of the actual paint you're getting out of the bottle.
Vortex
And
mixer.
combine that
Yeah, I
with
was
a
gonna say.
Yep.
Yep.
combine that with a cheap vortex mixer. You can get so Despae makes, or Despae or whoever they're spelled them earlier. They make a little vortex mixer because a lot of Gundam paint is 2 parts, so a lot of people use vortex mixers there. I have a real lab vortex mixer, but the little ones that are out there now, they're only $12 or $15. They work great.
And even you can get some of the lab ones that are like remanufactured, I guess you would say. Is that, I don't know like how you would call it, but you can get them under, $100 now for like a really good one.
Yeah, I ended up dusting mine off after I was having trouble getting some of my scale 75s to come together for that airbrush project. Game changer, and I was fortunate enough that mine actually came with, admittedly they were stainless, but came with some, like, something stupid like 1,000 stainless agitator balls or something.
Yeah, stainless isn't stainless when it comes to paint or alcohol and things like that. It will eventually corrode and rust, so you will end up, like Duncan said, as long as you know that it's going to happen, you might end up having to toss some paint.
You can buy 5 pounds of glass
Ceramic.
beads from Amazon for like $16.
There you go. Just
what
go
if
ahead
I
and
need
grab
6
that.
pounds?
Was that?
What if I need 6 pounds?
No, you don't.
Then take out 10 pounds of it.
Oh, also, totally forgot. So, like for basing materials and also for like terrain, Home Depot, man, go to like it's off season. Most places you can get landscaping rocks like lava rocks and creek pebble stuff, or creek pebbles or river pebbles or pebble, and like 50-pound bags like for. Like over the summer they jack the prices up because everybody's using it for landscaping. This time of year most people aren't doing that, and a lot of times they'll have it discounted this time of year. So like,
and if you're
go ahead.
Well,
I was just gonna say if you're gonna if you need, like, I use lava. I got a 50-pound bag of lava rock, and like it's lasted years. Like there's no way I'll ever go through it. And if I have too big a piece, I'd put it in a sock and smack it with a hammer. And it breaks down the size.
I've got play sand to do the same. Yeah, I've got play sand to do the same thing. I mix that in with some of the paint, and then you've got it's not to scale, so you end up needing to add other stuff like wet sand or stuff like that. There's a couple other different products you can use for the micro basing. Baking soda is another one that makes good scale sand. But I would also recommend, if you've got a Harbor Freight in your area, which is it's a tool retailer, but it's for tools that you really don't think that are really heirloom. I go there and pick up, things that I'm going to hit with a stick, or things that I think I only need to run, 12 to 13 times. It's not something I'm going to pass down to any kids I might have, but it's definitely something that's going to be useful while I need it.
And also this time of year, I just totally remembered, and John probably already knows this. Those Christmas Village like stuff that they put out, like you can get in, like, even Target has that stuff out front. Okay, like, so like people put like these Christmas Village. It's like, I'm not going to say HO scale, but it's around that.
It's close to O. If you find stuff that's close to O, what I do is I'll bring a pocket lighter or just even a mini or a 25, 30 millimeter base with you everywhere you go. Just throw it in your wallet, and you can compare how big the doors are to that base. Gives you an idea of whether or not they're good for terrain. Key lights will still go on sale usually around or after Christmas because people are using them for decorations, and you can just pull some wool and spray paint it black, and you've got explosion markers and things like that. There's a bunch of different ways you can make terrain out of pretty much everything that's going to be at a usual hobby retailer.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to go to unstandard places and look for stuff. Look for other, not necessarily hobbies, but like other disciplines to pick up stuff from them. Like the all the nail stuff that I was talking about. I don't do nails, but they have a lot of stuff that doubles for stuff that we can use. Don't be afraid to walk into Harbor Freight. I personally think Harbor Freight is great.
Yep.
For basically all the reasons, we just mentioned against it for it, because nothing lasts forever anymore. But Harbor Freight is a great source for cheap totes to get yourself organized.
Northern Tools, another one that's like Harbor Freight too.
Yeah. I have my airbrush stand is from Harbor Freight.
Yep.
The amount of stuff that I bought from literally hardware stores and baking stores and stuff like that I've turned and used for hobbies is ridiculous. Like my big turntable right now that I needed for painting some of the big stuff I did is like a cake decorating turntable. Like that definitely wasn't in the hobby section.
And if they've got rewards programs or if they've got discount programs, so you just ask them. Harbor Freight has a decent rewards program. If you spend so much a year, you can get a card. I know some places offer veteran discounts, so if you are a veteran or a veteran, you can save a little money that way as well.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me for the 62nd episode of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. I've been Jacob, and on this episode I was joined by...
Duncan.
Jamie.
Son of a biscuit.
And John.
And
one
thank
day,
you,
we
listeners.
promise, one day we will get the intro and the outro correct. No. We promise.
I'm not promising that anymore. People are here for this.
It's our thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't change your flavor once people are already buying. So, remember, stay accountable to your hobby and your buddies, and we'll see you here next time.